Everybody understands those bad behaviors to be the norm. So as a result, bad behaviors become the norm, workarounds become the norm, and you have to adapt to the society that you're in. So you begin to learn the wrong way to do things is actually the right way to do things. But I want to show you an interesting concept that I've kind of been thinking about, which is how driving in Ghana is a microcosm of society at whole. So I'm going to switch the camera over and we're going to talk about it, and I'll find any examples and I'll tell you what I mean by that. Okay, so right now we're in the very busy streets of La Paz. La Paz is one of the commercial hubs. What you'll see is there's a lot of people that have brought their shops or the areas of trade onto the roadside, people selling sofas here, etc. Which is in itself a kind of representation of Ghanaian society. These portions of the road where people have used for trading would have been allocated for walkways, side roads, etc. So there is a lack of discipline around how commercial spaces are set up, and it comes from what I've mentioned before, which is like the survival concept. So it comes from the basic understanding that you may put your goods and services out on the road to be closer to the customer or to be more forceful into the customer's phase. And also, it's a means of getting cheap commercial space. Some people are putting makeshift, makeshift structures or stalls, etc., on the roadside, just so that they can have a place to sell where they don't have to pay rent. Long story short. And it is largely accepted because the general notion is that where else are you gonna put people? Or how else are you gonna enable people to make money? If you force them into shops in which they have to pay rent for, they're probably going to exit the market. So it keeps, again, that survival hand-to-mouth environment going. So I understand it to a large degree. So back to the driving aspect. At the moment, I'm on a motorway, pretty much simple environment to navigate, right? There's nothing crazy happening here. You may see cars weaving in and out of traffic without indicators, but that's the least of your problems on Ghanaian roads. Where you do get more problems is around the junctions and decision points. And that's why I want to talk about how driving in Ghana makes a difference. You can see someone stopped right at the wrong kind of place, those kind of things. Because in Ghana, what I observe is that even if the rules are set out, because of the lack of enforcement, people will do what's best for them. Look at all this space here for parking your bus or your trotro, but they all cramped up at the beginning. Why? Because that's where the customers were, right? So what will lead behaviors is ability to make money, the most convenient way to make money, even if that's at cost of other people. Now, I think that's the really big point I want to make is, Ghana is very polite society, very nice society on the front of things. But when it comes to cold, hard cash business, getting ahead in life, people may slight you in order to advance their own cause. Again, it's back to the survival instinct of most here. Okay? It's not everyone. Trust is built over time. but it's a factor. And the other weird thing about the driving that represents Ghana as a wider society is that people often don't go through the conventional means to acquire their licenses, right? I hear stories of people sending other people to sit their theoretical exam because they just don't see the need, or they don't, you know, they just don't feel it necessary, right? Because you can do that, you can bend the rules. And when you don't sit your theory, your theoretical or your road science and all those kind of things, we got people just jumping on the road, being unsafe. When you don't sit that theory, you basically don't know the rules of the road. And when you don't know the rules of the road in a society which people are prepared to move forward, irrespective of the wider implications of the system as a whole, you get chaos. You get absolute chaos. So if you don't know the rules of the road, if you don't know the rules of the road and you are driving, everything then centers around your own personal objective on the road, right? So what that means is, like, for example, you'll come to a junction and the wrong rules are being followed at that junction, like a roundabout, for example. I'll show you an example when I get to it. But what you find in a roundabout is, it's almost like instead of the people on a roundabout have the right of way, what happens is whoever's going straight from their perspective has the right of way. So somebody trying to enter the roundabout that's going straight, whereas somebody's going around the roundabout, will feel as though they have the right of way. And then what happens is that becomes the new rule. Because I'm going straight, yeah, and I'm not stopping, you must stop for me on the roundabout, which causes chaos. I'll get an example and I'll show you a bit later. So that whole idea of, like, I'm going where I'm going, you have to bend to me, is a base cultural element here. that's the best way I can describe it. It's crazy, but that's the best way I can describe it. Another thing is, because of the fact that people are just growing where they're going, any infringement on their journey is seen as such an inconvenience. There's such little concern and regard for somebody else's experience, somebody else's pathway, that in order for someone to break or disturb that trajectory, I'm going straight, somebody wants to join. What you'll find in the UK, if there's enough space and it's not going to significantly impact on my journey time. See, look, for example, someone's just jumping out into me now, I'll let you go. Here, what you'll get is completely different. So what will happen is somebody won't let you go. And not only will they not let you go, they will force themselves to stop you entering that traffic. So you may be indicating to join the left lane, right? Like I will do now. And instead, in fact, there's an ambulance, so I won't do that. Instead of someone allowing you to go for the safety of everyone, because you're inflicting on their journey, they will speed up to close the gap to force you not to enter the lane, right? You got to grasp the mentality through that kind of behavior in driving, because it manifests in wider society. That basically means that I am prepared to stop you getting your way in life if it disturbs my way of life in any shape or form. And this is the dichotomy or the conflict or the contrast or whatever you want to call it of Ghanaian society, because we are such a nice and polite society on the surface. They always mock us for our yes, please, please this, please that, please that. And the please aspect is we're not literally saying please, it's a softening of whatever you're saying, right? So it's just a softening. But actually, that softness must not be seen as weakness. You will fail. They will get you. Because I've had people work for me, work in the house and stuff, being like, yes, please, 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 and then steal from me in the same regard. Right? Again, survival element. So there's a couple of overarching themes, right? Systems and rules are not followed, nor are they governed well enough or enforced well enough to allow the following of the rules. Therefore, you get people cutting corners. When you got people cutting corners, you get people misunderstanding the system or being selfish in the system, not considering other people. And when that happens, workarounds are needed. And those workarounds, instead of just indicating left or right, someone stuck their arm out to slow someone down from coming in, because that's what needed, because everybody understands the bad behaviors to be the norm. Right? Everybody understands those bad behaviors to be the norm. So as a result, bad behaviors become the norm, workarounds become the norm, and you have to adapt to the society that you're in. So for example, even though I know on a roundabout, I have right of way when I'm on the roundabout and they give way lines for somebody trying to enter, I'm going to have to stop as well, because if I don't, I'm going to cause an accident. Right? So you begin to learn the wrong way to do things is actually the right way to do things in societies like this. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm telling you the reality. All right, I think I'm just going to stop there. Let me know what you think. Does my driving analogy help? Leave it down in the comments below. Don't forget to check out Kuro for all your real estate data needs, for your planning, trend analysis, all of those things. If you want any consultations, everything is in the link in below. All right, until next time.